All right, guys, this is Chris Wilmoth with the Pulling Around Show. And today I'm honored to have the legend himself, CJ Wiley. CJ, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Chris, I appreciate you inviting me. I look forward to talking with you.
Well, I know you're doing kind of the same thing, except you're out on the road. Um, I plan on getting out on the road, but I want to cover the older pool halls
Yeah,
and just kind of let them the pool halls that are left and kind of let them tell their own story and find the ones that the people that have owned it for a long time and let them discuss the stuff that's went on in there.
yeah.
But I'll just get right to it. So how did you get started playing professionally?
Professionally,
Yeah.
I started my first professional tournament was in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Basically, I got to the position where nobody would gamble with me.
Right.
Now there was a couple guys like Buddy Hall I practiced with, and we were friends and didn't gamble. Earl was under contract with Q Tech, but I pretty much gambled with everybody else that I could, and it got to the point where I just was too well known, and I was forced into going pro basically
Right.
because I made a lot more money when I was gambling, in the underworld basically. But with that first tournament, either my first or second round, I played Efren Reyes, and of course, everybody knew who Efren was, and but I beat him like 11-7, I think. And then my next opponent was Earl Strickland, and I ended up winning against him. And then Jimmy Rimpey, Mike LeBron, and Chris Woods, I think, was the best player from Canada at the time, and I ended up getting fourth in that tournament. And that was my first pro tournament, and that I kind of hit the ground running, you could say, because I beat some of the best players in the world that you know people were surprised at, because a lot of people didn't know who I was. They had heard of me, but they hadn't ever seen me. So I kind of just popped up and and hit the ground running. Like I said, the next tournament I played was in Reno, and I got third. And I had wins against Johnny Archer, Nick Varner, and Steve Mizrak. And I had a match that a lot of people have seen that was the best-selling video of the year, where I beat him hill and ran the last rack in like a minute. So we both shot like real high AccuStats. I think I shot a 940 or 937, and he shot a 930 approximately. So it was a really good match, and he was kind of my a hero of mine growing up because he did those light beer commercials, and Steve Mizrak was literally larger than life.
Right.
So we have some stories together as well.
Yeah, we I talked to Richard Black yesterday, and he told me
Yeah,
about Mizrak shooting with his cue for a long time.
yeah.
Um, who was your do you remember who your first sponsor was?
My first sponsor.
Yeah.
I mean, I always sponsor myself. I don't really. The only thing that I did as far as sponsorship, McDermott Q made my own line of cues with them, and I designed three of them. And so I guess they were my sponsor. We did
Right.
a joint partnership on the Q line, but see, I own CJ's Billiard Palace in Dallas, so
Right.
I made enough money where I didn't really need any sponsors. So I guess that was my sponsor, if anything,
Right.
my business.
So I know you mentioned Steve Mizrak, but who were some of your early influences or mentors coming up?
Um, One of my main ones when I was a teenager was Omaha John Shupit, who was the World Series of Tavern winner and one of the best players in the country. But he was a undercover player, gambler, road player. So he took me around and traveled. I tell a lot of stories about him and on my YouTube channel, in detail. I don't want to get into all those, but he took me around actually through North Carolina and South Carolina, and we won a lot of money together. And then John ended up retiring a couple years later, so that was kind of short lived as far as our partnership. but then I traveled with Dalton Leone and you know, a lot of undercover players. But I mean, I grew up kind of watching, you know, the Willie Moscone Minnesota Fats, and then Alan Hopkins and Mike Sigel. You know, they were all on ABC Wide World of Sports. So
Right.
as a kid, you know, they're the ones that I kind of idolized a little bit, and of course Steve Mizrak, as I mentioned. So
So when you were on the road, did you come through Oklahoma much?
yeah, yeah, I started going to Oklahoma when I was about 17, 16 or 17. I
Um,
played in Tulsa at the Billiard Palace
mhm.
there on what was that, 31st Street in Yale or Harvard or
That
one of
was
the.
that was the first one.
That was,
Then they moved to 21st and Memorial. Um,
yeah, I played at the old one when I was a teenager, and was it Jim
McDermott.
McDermott,
Yeah.
what owner, and Mike Betts, and of course Fat Randy. You know, Fat Randy was a character. He was the best player around there, and he never would play me for some reason. You know, he would play anybody, but for some reason he wouldn't match up with me, and I'm not sure why. But I took him around a little bit and got to know him. But you know, he was a strange character. You know,
Did you
so
did you ever play James Walden?
James and I never played. You know, I owned that pool room. Uh, I guess he was in Oklahoma City. I really never heard much about him. He came down and played Wade Crane at my pool room one time, some one pocket, and they played for 2 days. And James beat him the second day, but I really didn't know much about James. He could have played me, but I think he steered away from me. Not too many people really wanted to come to my pool room and play me. I mean, I beat a lot of really strong players there, and so he probably thought there was easier action out there than coming to Dallas to play me.
Um, when you were getting ready to play in a big tournament or something, what did you do to prepare yourself mentally?
Well, I've done a lot of things other than pool. I
Right.
never practiced as much as most of the other players, but like I was a black belt in martial arts in '91, and second degree in '94 or '95 was during the time where I was putting a lot of time into that. So martial arts was a big key to my game and my mental side. And I got a degree in neurolinguistic programming, the study of how words are used to program the mind. And I've always been kind of a study junkie. You know, I probably spent $250,000 on, uh, you know, learning from some of the best teachers in the world. I mean, I've traveled around, like in Hawaii. I studied the Huna, which is the ancient Kahuna Indians from Hawaii, from Tad James, who was the foremost authority or one of them on the Kahuna, and they're really interesting. But I studied a lot of ancient manuscripts and, you know, Greek, Hebrew, Chaldee, Aramaic. You know, so pool was always how I made money, and it was
Right.
certainly a gift, but it enabled me to do a lot of the things. So my mental game was more from those outside influences like martial arts and the neurolinguistic programming. I mean, I've studied like Silva mind control, and I got a degree in hypnosis. And, you know, so I was studying hypnosis under Richard Bandler, Ericksonian hypnosis, when I was 23 in Florida. And I was in there. I still remember being in those classes, and you know, mostly therapists, you know, older therapists were taking those classes, you know, to use for therapeutic hypnosis. I just was interested in it and was just always fascinated by kind of mind control type stuff,
Right.
you know, and that really came from hustling pool. Because some of the guys that I ran around with, like Strong Arm John and that Dalton Leone and Weldon Rogers, Junior Weldon, I just marveled at how they were able to manipulate people without them knowing it,
Right.
you know, and it was just masterful. And so I I developed a curiosity for that kind of thing, and you know, and I've studied it pretty much my whole life. So and it keeps getting more and more interesting as I get more and more, you know, educated about it and knowledgeable.
So your martial arts stuff though also helped you um helped your focus and your concentration when you were playing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there were certain forms that I like my degree's in Shaolin Kung Fu, but I've studied seven other martial arts forms, and like for instance, one of them that I studied was called Bagua, which is it's known as an iron palm training or poison palm training, but it's kind of a moving meditation where it'd be hard to explain how it is, but it develops a tremendous amount of focus and power. And there was magazine articles written about me back then about my break shot. I mean, I broke the balls really good. And I never practiced the break. I see in the last, especially Shane Van Boning kind of started it where he practiced the break a lot. But back when I was developing and playing, all these big matches, as far as I know, not too many players actually practice the break. I just broke real good when I played real good,
Right. Right.
So as long as you hit them square, I just always hit them really hard and really square, and that's about all I could do. But I never perfected it like Shane has and some of these players today. I think Johnny Archer and Tony Ellen, but Wade Crane, had one of the best breaks that I've ever seen. David Howard, but as far as I know, none of those guys. Maybe Johnny Archer did, but we just didn't practice that particular shot. I don't think. I think that's as far as at least I didn't. I know I didn't.
Well, now it seems like they try to find a way that they can manipulate the rack. That way they can be more consistent on making a certain ball and getting shape on the next ball from the break.
Yeah. See, I don't agree with that at all. Racking your own balls to me is like pitching to yourself playing baseball,
right,
or serving to yourself playing tennis. See, there's a competition between two players, and the racking and the breaking is a competition. When you start letting somebody do both of them, then there's no competition. So it's changed. Like the amount of racks that they can run nowadays, you really can't. It's not apples to apples comparing it to when we used to play. Because when we racked the balls, we weren't cheating the other player, but we were certainly trying to rack them where they couldn't make one break, especially the corner ball. Now they make the corner ball every time. So, I mean, I've made the statement that how do you even call it 9-ball when every time they actually play the game, there's at least 8 balls or 7 balls because they make a ball and a break every single time. We never heard of that. Even the best breakers in the world back when I was competing made a ball about 70% of the time. That's if you were hitting them really good, you'd make them about 70% of the time. Nowadays, it's every time. So
I was discussing with a friend of mine at the pool hall up here the other day that now that they have the template racks, and since it's rack your own, that they should take the push shot away, the push out.
I don't know.
I mean, because
I don't. I mean, there's no fixing the racking your own, and it's just like you're practicing against each other. Like you'll notice nobody gambles playing 9-ball hardly anymore because it's just not. I can't gamble with anybody playing 9-ball because they're gonna run a rack their own balls and they're gonna manipulate it to make one. And I mean, it just doesn't work that way, So 9-ball they have pretty much ruined through the years, as far as I'm concerned, and I'd love to debate that with somebody because they couldn't possibly win that debate because I know exactly how they changed the rules, and especially like I said, when you're racking your own balls, that'd be like Barry Bonds pitching to himself. Imagine how many home runs he would hit if he just pitched to himself every time, right exactly where he wanted to hit it.
right.
But a pitcher is supposed to pitch to him and pitch where he doesn't want to hit it. They're supposed to keep the ball away from him as an analogy. And so I don't think there's any fixing that, whether you push out off the break or not. The break is a serious problem in this game, racking your own. And now they're trying to put the 9-ball on the spot.
Right.
See, they're trying to fix something that's broken that needs to be completely fixed. If they're going to fix it, they need to completely fix it.
You think
You
think they need to go away from the template rack and get back to the triangle?
Yeah, I think it's too far gone. I mean, see, I've created a game called Shoot or Dare, and it's at shootordare.com if anybody wants to look into it. But the rules that we always played when I was gambling on the road and people were playing, I think, a lot more serious 9-ball than they are these days, we played 2 foul instead of 1 foul. So you could push out every time. Like the kicking in pool, I mean, everybody has only seen that, so they don't know the difference, but really kicking never was intended to be in pool, in 9-ball. The original rules, you didn't kick at balls. I mean, some of those old timers like Willie Mosconi, if he had to kick at a ball that was in the middle of the table, I think he would quit and never play again. So they changed those rules. I know who I know who did it, and they wanted 2 things to happen. They wanted to speed up the play, and they wanted to put more luck into it, so they got more participants. They wanted to speed it up because the promoters get out of the building quicker. So the quicker the game can get over and the tournament can get over, the quicker they can go home. I don't blame them one bit. I would do that too. In business, you do want to, make things where it favors the business owner. But in this instance, I think it's a shame because the pro players never had any say-so in these rule changes. And I don't think they would have agreed with any of them, especially the rack your own, like the Mike Sigels and Earl Stricklands and players like that, Buddy Hall. Man, I don't think for an instant that they would approve of racking your own balls playing 9-ball. And I did a podcast with Keith McCready, Grady Seasons from The Color of Money.
Right.
And he's the same way. He said when they changed the rules to the 1 foul, his game went down like the 7-ball, went down like, 15 or 20%. So did mine, because it took away a lot of the knowledge that we both had. And it took a lot of the shot making out of the game. It also took the spot shot out of the game. How many times do you see spot shots in 9-ball now? Never. But it used to be that a spot shot was a big part of the game, because if you made a foul, the incoming player didn't have ball in hand. It was, the ball, if it was behind the line, like the kitchen line, the ball would spot and you'd have ball in hand behind the line, not anywhere on the table. Having ball in hand anywhere on the table, in my opinion, is too much of a penalty. It's like in basketball, if you made a foul and they just got to dunk the ball every time instead of shooting a free throw.
Right.
Now, anybody could know that watches basketball that would be a terrible thing to do.
Right.
But that's what they did in pool, and nobody seemed to notice. Nobody seemed to care. I did. I mean, I spoke up about it. So did Keith McCready and several of the players, but we were the minority. We're not gonna influence the promoters that were putting up all the money and as far as getting the sponsors and running the tournaments. They had the say-so. We just pretty much had to play in the tournament or not play in the tournament, so we still played.
So was it
when in Rome, it was the Romans, you know what I'm saying?
Was it to speed it up for TV?
No, TV had nothing to do with it. I had a lot of interactions with TV. I did several ESPN events, and I did 6 of my own events that I produced, but I was a liaison with ESPN for all the men's events from 96 to 99. Not all the events. There were some special events like Challenge of Champions, but I was, and they don't know what the rules are. They've never asked, and they never would ask. The people like with ESPN, not only do they not know the rules, but they don't care, So for them to, I get a kick out of it, because that's what the people that did change this stuff, they circulated the rumor that TV did it. And when people would ask me, I'd laugh at them, because I'm like, I've been with the TV people. They don't even know what the rules are and don't care what they are. They just want you to play the best form of your game so that it gets the best audience, because that's all they care about are numbers. They want to see how many people are tuning in to watch your sport. And when I was doing the events between 96 and 99, we were averaging 1 million people per show.
Right.
I know that. And I played a live event in front of 2.8 million people. That was the Battle of the Sexes. See, I won the ESPN World Championships in 96, and Vivian Villarreal, who I'm sure you know, won the women's tournament. And we played each other, and the winner got 60,000 and the loser got 40,000. Well, ESPN promoted that pretty heavily, and they got 2.8 million people to watch it. And I did win that match, and it was a big deal. I mean, I probably got more publicity out of winning that match than any of my other matches. I mean, it got where I couldn't walk through airports without 10 or 20 people saying, "Hey, CJ," and that was the closest I ever came to feeling like, Michael Jordan probably feels all the time. He can't go anywhere.
Right.
But when you're on TV a lot, you do get that recognition, and it is nice, not only for myself, but it was nice for the sport, because Jeanette Lee and Allison Fisher and Earl and Mike Sigel, and we were all pretty well known TV celebrities
Right.
back in the mid '90s to upper '90s.
So what do you think needs to happen for pool to get back on TV? I mean, I know there's a lot of streaming. These big events, they'll have. I don't think they have the numbers that ESPN had back when it was on TV, but and there's a lot of streaming avenues. But what do you think it has to happen to get back to primetime TV?
Well, first you got to fix the game. Like I said, that's what I'm doing. I mean, I am trying to get it back on TV, and I know I can, because I know how it doesn't take any magical thing to get pool on TV. The reason that it hasn't been on TV is just because there's nobody promoting it. Like TV, when you just say TV, that's kind of a generic term. But when the people that are really in charge of ESPN or whatever station you want to talk about, it's not their job to go around and solicit sports like pool to get on their platform.
Right.
It takes somebody like what I did it myself. I would go and set up meetings with them, and I'd negotiate a deal. A lot of times I'd do a barter deal where I paid for the production costs and they would pay for the TV time. And then we'd split the commercial inventory, which generally in an hour show, you'd have 16 commercials. I would get 8, they'd get 8. I'd give the title sponsor like 3 of those commercials, the presenting sponsor 1 or 2 of the commercials, and then maybe a couple other sponsors 1 commercial. Right. So they got a piece of the advertising pie, and then I could format my sponsorship packages to include a commercial on ESPN. Well, that has value.
Right.
So, so I could make the money back. A lot of times I usually spend about $12,500 on, as far as my cost, and I could recuperate that cost, through, the commercial inventory and selling sponsorship packages, and then the cover charge.
Right.
I mean, so, but nowadays you can't do that. And there's so much more competition for people's attention. So I did a poll with, basically like a think tank of 1,000 people, and only 2% said they'd watch pool no matter what. But I figured out through that think tank how they would watch it, which I can't really disclose that, but I'm going to use this system to get it back on TV and showcase a game it's just got a lot more content than regular 9-ball. It's basically got all the strategic value of one pocket, but it's quick like 9-ball. We call them like bite-sized chess matches on a pool table, where the games last about 3 or 4 minutes, but they've got a lot of content. And that content is the shot making, the strategic value of seeing the battle between the 2 players for the first shot. I mean, I can identify all the aspects of pool that actually have entertainment value, strategic value, excitement value. And so I put this together through a formula. So I didn't just put the game together because it was something that I liked, even though I and what. I mean, certainly that had something to do with it. But my whole outcome was just to create more value so that it would hold people's attention, and we could get sponsors again that would be willing to partner up with us to try to get, you got to get at least 1 million people watching really and I know we can do that because we already did it in the 90s.
Right.
It just needs to be better now. And we can do it better because we have the technology that everybody has. I mean, the stuff we can do with AI is fascinating. One of my partners is a genius when it comes to that stuff, and it's amazing what he can do.
Right.
And other
It's
people are doing it too. So I hope, I mean, I'm not just trying to do this on myself. I hope everybody does something better for pool, because if we all do something better, it'll, it'll rise up for sure,
right.
but everybody needs to try to help a little bit. Like what you're doing here is helping. So, yeah,
You know,
that's my thing.
I can't really play anymore because I was in a bad accident, and walking around the pool table is very challenging right now. So
Oh, really?
this is what I'm doing until I can get back to the table. Is there anything that you would have done different when you first started playing professionally?
I don't think so. My experience with pro pool and everything that happened surpassed probably what I would have imagined. So I don't think so. I mean, I really have no regrets whatsoever as far as my playing. Now, I did quit in 1999 for 7 years. If I had that to do over again, that's a tough one. I don't know if I would have wanted to continue to play, but I certainly would have won a lot more, major championships, and my game would have continued to get better. Because when I quit for 7 years and then I came back, even though I did get ninth in the U.S. Open, there's a match against Earl Strickland when I first came back, and they say on there that I hadn't played in 7 years, and I beat him. He was a little messed up. He was wearing like 10-pound ankle weights that match, and he was, there was sometimes Earl, things bother him, but I did lose I lost my game for a while. I keep thinking it's going to come back, but for it to actually come back, I have to play a lot more. And my thing is, I wanted to be the best teacher in the world. I mean, type of goals, whether I reach them or not. And so I really committed to the teaching part. And now I'm getting to the point where I'm about ready to move on. And when I move on, I want to go into producing these TV events and make the game the best it can possibly be. But between the business, like I ran a club in Dallas, Texas, while during those 7 years, it had 630,000 members. It was called Carson's Palace, and we turned it into Carson's Live. It was at Trinity Mills and the Tollway there in Dallas, and we were number one in the state of Texas for alcohol sales, and it was a great business experience for me. Like in 2002, I did 8.3 million in gross sales. So we were, that's between two places. And that place, just to give you an idea, and this is just a measurement because people been in the bar business understand, we did a $18,000 hour. So strong.
Pretty strong. Pretty strong.
And, my real name's Carson. So it was named, Carson's Palace. It was like a medieval theme. And then in 2008, the Intellicom corridor crashed, and the dot-com corridor, and the housing industry, there was we almost like went bankrupt, or maybe we did as a country. And I changed it from Carson's Palace to Carson's Live and made it more into a nightclub. And I had to target a younger demographic because the older demographic, about 40,000 jobs were lost in North Dallas. So I had to do some fancy footwork and had to put in another 500,000 or something into this concept to retool it. But I learned, there again, the stuff that I learned there is invaluable and priceless. So I don't think I would want to do that again, but I am glad that I went through it, because when I get into what I'm getting ready to do, I think I'm going to need all the business experience, that I can muster. So
Do you ever miss owning the pool hall?
occasionally, I mean, it would, life would be easier if I did own it. I mean, that is my forte, and I've got a big advantage because of who I am in the pool world, as far as playing and putting out stuff that other people can't, if I was in a major city. But I still, I've been there and done that. I'm not driven by money. Like I'm just not, I mean, I've made a tremendous amount, and I don't know how to say it. I'm more of a competitor. Like for me, when I was gambling really high, money was like just a way to keep score.
Right.
Once somebody told me one time the only difference between gamblers is the color of their chips. So once you start dealing in those $1 million chips, it's really hard to go back to the $1,000 ones. So I'm perfectly content just getting by until I have a chance to do something that surpasses what I've done before.
Yeah.
And that's just me. I mean, I'm just saying, to me, life is a competition and the game is the teacher. I have that saying because it's like a microcosm for life. I've learned a lot from pool and I can teach a lot from pool and build bridges. I've already mentioned, the business stuff. You can take the game of pool and compare it to a lot of high level stuff.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I just gave a lesson today with a guy that's got his own private jet and he does a lot of business in China. And I mean, he's a heavy hitter. And man, he was just fascinated to work with me. And we worked for 3 days in a row. And he just sent me a text a while ago just saying, man, I just love not just working with you, but I feel like I have a new friend. And I showed him some things and told him some things while we were doing the lesson. And now he wants to help me patent and copyright and produce through his connections 2 of the things I use for training in my lessons.
Right.
And they're really strong. And it just happened, but we talked the same language. He knew, like, especially when I told him about this game, and putting it into a kind of like a profit loss statement, like a financial statement. Of course, he was the president of a huge company before he started, his own. So he's well familiar with all that kind of stuff. And I just told him what I did instead of profit and loss. I put a formula together that's like strengths and weaknesses in the game of pool. And I identified in writing everything that I thought was a strength and everything I thought was a weakness. Then I set forth to get all the weaknesses on the strength side.
Right. Right.
And it took me a couple years, but I finally did it. And some of the stuff that came to me, I thought, it just had to, it's like it wasn't even, it didn't come to me in a dream and I didn't like see any kind of, wild signs in the sky, but I did seem to get the information to put together what I'm doing when the time was right. And I think that's how life is a lot of times. If you force something too much, sometimes that's not the best approach. So even though I've almost done some big things with this game and with what I'm trying to do that fell through, now I'm starting to see that it just wasn't the right time yet. Just like remember when Earl ran the 11 racks in a row to win the $1 million?
Mm-hmm.
Did you know about that?
Yes.
That was at my pool room,
Right.
and that caused all kinds of controversy. And he got his money. We did a documentary and interviewed him, but it took 2.5 years. And it kind of tarnished my reputation because everybody was saying, not everybody, but people were saying that I didn't have it insured and, they were bad mouthing me. Well, I was under a confidentiality agreement. I couldn't defend myself. So I had to stand there and take it. It's like standing there and, like a dunking machine and they're throwing balls at you to dunk you and you can't throw back at them.
Right.
Which caused, I was a little bitter about that. And tell you the truth, that did have something to do with why I quit for 7 years. Because I just got fed up with it. I was doing good things. I gave Earl Strickland that first 50,000 out of the $1 million because there was 50,000 a year for 20 years. So I gave him the first 50,000. I'll tell you the truth, I probably would have given him another 50,000.
Right.
But instead, I put up the money for the legal fees, and which was an additional 80,000 for me, and it was 170,000 for some lawyers that I knew that took it on contingency. But we won that lawsuit. But by the time we won it, it was too late. I didn't have that tour anymore. It was the Professional Q Sports Association tour, and so that's just. I could look at it like it was bad luck, but I actually don't. I just don't think it was the right time then. I think the right time is now. I think pool is going to be bigger than it's ever been within the next 3 years.
Right.
And I just want to have something to do with it. Hey, I don't need all the credit or the money or anything like that. I just want to help,
Right.
and I want to be able to use the strengths and the gifts that I have, to be able to do that, because I do have strengths that a lot of the other players don't have as far as business skills and communication skills. And so that's what you see me doing now, is doing these podcasts. And, I'm just trying I'm really practicing,
Right. Right.
just like what we're doing here. Like, I'm practicing,
Right.
just,
It's kind of
because no matter what you do in life, you got to practice it before you get good at it. Right.
yeah, it's kind of like being a politician, I guess.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I don't do the politic thing very well, but I understand what you mean. Yeah.
So so talking about, the future of pool, so what needs to happen, do you think, to get the younger generation involved in the game?
You know how to get the kids involved?
How's that?
I know how to get the kids involved. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You tell them you can't play until you're 18. Just
Yeah.
tell them you cannot play till you're 18. I don't care what you do. And they'll be climbing in the windows and going up on the roof trying to get into the pool rooms. I'm kind of kidding, but I'm kind of not, because you remember, when you were a kid, we're all like this.
Right.
If somebody tells us we can't do it because we got to be an adult, that'll make us want to do it even more.
Right.
But what I think, to be more serious about that is we have to create an allure that brings them in. And again, I think it has a lot to do with the content of the game. Because if it's not interesting, exciting, and strategic, I don't see why they'd want to play it. So all of these things that I've been talking about, I think applies to making it popular, because kids are going to always want to do what's popular with adults.
Okay.
You're not going to see many exceptions with that. Kids love NASCAR because adults love NASCAR, and they love the Super Bowls and the, NFL, NBA, baseball. They love that because their fathers do. So if we can get to the fathers and mothers with something that they enjoy doing, and it's in a good environment, and it's done in class and style, then I think the kids will want to do it too, especially as more money comes into the game.
Right.
I mean, say what you want, but without prize money, I wouldn't advise a kid to get involved with pool if they can't ever make a living at it. I mean, right now, maybe 5 people in the United States, pro players, are making a living playing pool.
Two of them's 15 years old. So Savannah Easton and Sophia Mast.
Yeah, but it's and they're incredibly talented, and they know how to market themselves. I mean, I'm sure they've got some adult help there, but they got great energy and they showcase themselves well. But I believe, like, it's a lot because of their parents, right? They're Savannah, I think, her parents seem to be really involved, and they love pool, I'm sure.
Yeah, and Sophia's dad,
Sophia's dad, yeah.
Yeah. So we did an interview with her 2 weeks ago. Well, right after she won the women's Texas Open, and she's the youngest to ever win it in its 50-year history. Now,
where is she from?
She's from Florida. So she's from Florida, and Savannah is from Las Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah, Savannah, I see a lot on Facebook. Sophia, I really don't know. So
they're best friends, and then they played each other in the finals, and Sophia had to double dip Savannah, and she got it done. Yeah, it was pretty special.
Yeah.
So tell me one of your favorite road stories. I know you tell them all the time.
Yeah.
But I want one of your favorites, and then I'll let you go.
Okay. I do have a lot. I've probably got 100 of them on my YouTube channel right now, and I've actually got some more that I'm going to tell. Probably my favorite one is the Color of Money story, where it was in 1986, and this was like 1987, but it was right after the Color of Money came out. And a friend of mine we're going through Pennsylvania, and we went to Pittsburgh because we heard that this bar owner loved to play pool. He loved to back people playing pool, and he had a table upstairs where he had private games. So we go into that bar, and I've got an ID that says I'm Mike Hulse, Hulse, from Marion, Indiana. That was a real guy. My friend Chuck Bradley got me that ID. So I went by Mike Hulse for like 3 years. So we go into the bar and we're sitting up at the bar. And the reason I say that is the owner, when we ask about gambling, playing pool, wanted to see our IDs because I guess he'd had some trouble with the police, because he had a lot of gambling there. And that's why we were there. So we showed him the ID. He went for it that I was Mike Hulse. And after he saw him, he just let out a breath of relief. And he's like, man, he says, I love pool. He says, I'm just like in The Color of Money. He said, you saw that movie, didn't you? And I said, yeah, I saw the movie. My friend's like, yeah, we saw the movie. So he said, I'm just like that. I love action. He says, I love to gamble. I love to play myself, but I especially love to bet on other people. He says, as a matter of fact, I got a table upstairs just like in The Color of Money. You want to see it? I was like, yeah, we want to see it. And then it's like, perfect, man. He's going to show us the table. So we go down to the end of the bar and we're walking. I can still remember he's walking up the steps and I'm behind him. I'm looking up and he's looking over his shoulder saying, I swear this is just like in The Color of Money. He said, you guys saw the movie, right? Like, yeah, we saw the movie. And so we go up there and it's a gold crown table. It's beautiful. Got a really nice room and everything. Say, see, it's just like, Tom Cruise played, Keith McCready, Grady Seasons. And we're like, yeah, this is really nice. So one thing I didn't say is I had these fake glasses on. I wore fake glasses to disguise myself, but not that people knew me back then so much that it made people want to play more. For some reason, when I wore glasses, they underestimated me.
Right.
So he said, I'll play you a race to 7 for $100. He said, I'm not that good, but I'll just test you. So I said, okay. So I'm wearing the glasses. I beat him a set for 100. I beat him another set for 100. He says, hold on. He says, I'm going to go down and get somebody else to play you for 200. So he goes downstairs and he comes back up and he's got like the cook or something. I mean, he ends up getting like a couple of people works for him and a couple locals, and he just keeps bringing people up and I keep beating them. And I keep playing a little bit better and a little bit better, but I'm still wearing the glasses. So now I'm there and I see the best player from Pittsburgh come in. I know him, but he doesn't know me. So I told my partner, I said, there they got the heavy hitter. So now the bar owner comes over to me and says, listen, we got a guy over here that'll play you and play you for a lot more money, but you got to play downstairs on the smaller bar tables. So that's what we were waiting for. Now I'm already up at a few thousand, but now we're going to have a chance to win something pretty serious. So we agreed. We go back downstairs. Now we have this arranged. I go in front of the owner. I asked my partner, I said, listen, these glasses are kind of hurting my nose. Can you get my contacts? So he had my contact lens case, which had no contacts in. Right. He gives them to me. I go to the bathroom, I wash off my face and basically push, like water my eyes so it looks like I've had contacts in.
Right.
I come out, I give him the fake glasses, the contact lens case. He takes them to the car to get rid of the evidence. So now I played the guy that is the best player in Pittsburgh, or one of them, and I proceed to beat him out of about another 4,500 because we raised the bet and was betting everybody on the side. And so I ended up winning, 6,000 to 7,000. I don't remember exactly what it was. So anyway, so now, I smoked the guy at the end because I needed to.
Right.
So now the bar owner comes up to me and he's got a puzzled look on his face. And he says, kid, he said, you played a lot better there at the end than you did at the beginning. And I looked at him dead in the eye and I said, well, you saw the movie, didn't you? And his face, his forehead started turning red. And I told my friend, I said, I think we need to get out of here. And we got out. And And it was hilarious, really. I mean, looking back at it, because obviously he told me for 15 minutes about this movie that was a pool hustling movie. And that's
Right.
what I really was. I was really the Tom Cruise, and he had no idea until the end. So that's one of my favorite stories. That's been in some major magazines, and
I appreciate it. Well, I'll let you go. I appreciate you joining us, guys. I'm going to leave a description of CJ's link to his page on YouTube. Y'all go enjoy it. He's got plenty of more stories like the one he just told. Y'all hit the subscribe button, and if you like content like this, give me a thumbs up, and leave a comment and let us know how we're doing. Again, CJ, thanks for joining
Hi,
us.
Chris. Hey, man, I appreciate it. That was fun.
I appreciate your time.
All right.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. Later.